All right. What is happening? So we had three waiting. So what's up, guys? Just gonna start doing some Tuesday night lives, just kind of talking about different things going on in the strongman world. So if you have any questions, be happy to kind of get through that. But some things I want to talk about today are the upcoming Giants Live Deadlift Championships. Or it's also the USA Strongman Championships. People have always been talking about who's going to be the next person to break the world deadlift record. I think we've got a couple people that are in contention, but if I had to put money on it, I don't think it's going to happen. So why don't we just kind of start, with that one? If anybody's here, I'm interested in your opinion. Who do you think has the proper world deadlift record? Is it Eddie Hall with his 500-pound lift, or I'm sorry, 500 kilos, or is it Thor with 501? If it was my opinion, I think it's Thor. But anyways, people that are coming in hot this year, you have Matt Rack from New Zealand. You have Graham Hicks. I think both those guys are probably the two best deadlifters out there. As you know, Hafthor Bjornsson, or maybe you don't know, does not appear at Giants live shows right now because he does feel like he was slighted in some of the World's Strongest Man competitions when Eddie Hall won back in like 2017. So, that's his right. That's his prerogative. And I kind of feel for him. But, anyways, that USA Strongman Championships, it's going to be in Vegas. They've got a max deadlift, car walk, dumbbell press, wrecking ball hold, and the Castle Stones, which is just their name for the Atlas Stones, right? Pretty cool kind of lineup. We'll just kind of run through it. You've got Tom Stoltman, Mitch Hooper, Iron Bibby, who never really does well in any sort of full show. He's kind of a one-off presser. You've got Evan Singleton, Trey Mitchell. It's really good to see that guy back from his Achilles rupture at the Rogue Invitational last year. Alexei Novikov also hasn't really been on his A game since he got hurt. A couple times. He tore his bicep at one of the Giants live shows last year. Going through the list, Graham Hicks, former powerlifter. Rauno Heinla, always good. He's in his mid-40s now. Should probably put on a pretty good show and event. We've got some women in the mix like Lucy Underdown, who's coming for a big deadlift. As it's listing on the website, she's the only female on the list, which I find kind of interesting. I do think that Giants Live happens to play favorites with some of their people. I think that's pretty obvious. You got to wonder why somebody like Dimitar Savatinov hasn't been invited. He pulled well over 1,000 last year, and by most people's account holds the American deadlift record. I think it was 1,036. So considering that's, I think the heaviest deadlift pulled in competition in the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years. It's kind of weird that he didn't get an invite, but he would say politics. I would say I don't know the reason for that. But anyways, going along the list, Austin Andrade, who won the Shaw Open a couple years ago, is making a pretty big stomp on some of these pro shows. He did a pretty good job at the Shaw Classic this year. Then we've got Eddie Williams, Luke Stoltman, Ivan Makarov, and Marcus Crowder, who are rounding it off right now. Ivan Makarov, something that's pretty interesting about him is he always is posting a lot of really insane deadlifts and lifts in his training, but whenever it comes time to actually put it out there, he never really comes close. He did get, I believe, maybe 501 kilos off the ground, but was really not anywhere close to actually pulling it. So you got to wonder kind of what's going on with that guy now that it's been, I don't know, maybe 7 years now that he's been saying he's going to hit that 501. I just don't think he has it in him. No disrespect, but nothing's looking new or different. I remember in 2017, actually, let me think about that. 2019, I actually had the opportunity. I flew down to Daytona while still living in Chicago with Julius Maddox, and we went down to OSG, but also to meet Eddie Hall and shoot a video with him. So if you ever see the Julius Maddox and Eddie Hall bench press YouTube video, I make a brief appearance in there. Pretty cool time. But Eddie Hall at the time said that, taking the piss out of it, I'm sure, and not wanting to lose his record. He said that it was rather well known in the elite strongman world that Makarov was using fake plates and hyping up his lifts. So, you know, who knows? Could have just been Eddie having a little bit of slight to that, but you never really know for sure. So that's how that goes. Should be pretty cool though. I think that's going to be a good show. I would like to see more Americans in that competition, but that's just how it goes. There's not really a whole bunch of elite level American strongman athletes. Like at the top, you do have Trey Mitchell, people like Austin Andrade. I mean, I think he represents Mexico, but that's that. Talking about that, Evan Singleton as well. My own thoughts on the matter is Evan Singleton is like a little bit of a nutcase, and I mean no disrespect by that, but that guy is seems to be sort of his worst enemy when it comes to hyping himself up. He always like hypes and talks a big game about how he's going to win this and win that, and he has won some of these Giants Live European shows, but never really seems to put it all together when it's time. And that's typically a lot of like little mistakes here and there. Just technical errors and stuff. So, I really am only saying this because I would like to see more from that guy, but who knows? I don't know. He has all the tools and he certainly has the frame to be a great strongman, but we will see. Those of you who are watching, if you want to say hello, let me know who's checking in. Feel free to say what's up. So anyways, kind of continuing to moving on. This weekend, we have the 2024 Strongman Corporation National Championships. And, one of the reasons I'm kind of doing these lives is I would like to, have more opportunities to kind of speak on some things that I think need to be changed or just need to be considered in the world of strongman. One of them being, I think it's kind of disappointing that there's only 5 athletes representing Florida that are going into the Strongman Corp National Championships. And the main reason for that is there's 2 Strongman Corp shows in Florida. So not great. There's meanwhile, 20, 25 maybe USS, and we had, I think, over 20, potentially up to 30 athletes from Florida at the US Strongman Nationals in Denver. So when you consider that Strongman Corp Nationals are only in South Carolina, kind of some low representation. But we do have people, if I can remember everybody off the top of my head, Ray Kuna, who's won Florida's Strongest Man twice, Brooks Larkin, who finished second at World's Strongest Firefighter, Reed Thompson, yeah, great lifter, should do pretty well out there. And I know a few others are in the mix, so hopefully these guys do well. Kind of an interesting layout of events. It's good 2-day, 5-event show. They've got the Conan's Wheel, Max Kratos Bar Deadlift, bag toss for max height. That should be a pretty fun event. Last year they did a max weight bag toss. Then a press ladder where they're going to have a axle, log, axle, log, axle. So almost like what we saw at the Shaw Classic. Pretty cool. And then a farmer's walk with a turn. So a lot of kind of interesting mixes on that. One thing I would say is I personally am not a gigantic fan of the really super lengthy barbells. Now they are like really nice and help people lift a lot, but I don't know, man. Parts of me feel like they're a little bit of an ego lift in some sense. Like I have changed my mind on this as somebody who used to be a deadlift specialist. Like I really would always lift with deadlift bars to get the most out of them. But, now as somebody who really values like elite top level strength, I do enjoy the challenge of like a good heavy axle deadlift or a power bar because it's just harder. So kind of curious to see what will come out of that. I do love big, heavy lifts no matter what. So even though I'm saying that's not my favorite, would like to see it. Do find it rather interesting that in the specific rule set, it says no Jefferson deadlift. I wonder, if that actually, like, honestly, I don't know why not. And another thing on this too is I don't fully understand in, some things like why no sumo deadlift if we're strongmen and we lift things however, whatever, just in any way we can get it up. Like I've always wondered why that is. But hey, rules are rules. That's that. There's a lot of interesting things with some of these. I didn't look entirely through everything, but I know at least I like to pay attention to the 175 class because that's where I compete in. And Parts of me are a little bummed that I didn't end up training for this one. That being said, I did do the OSG regionals and I won. So trained for that instead, had a great time, and we're taking it to Madison in Wisconsin in December. Should be a great time for that one. But I do expect Quinn Ramasco to absolutely obliterate that field. No disrespect to any of the other competitors, but man, that guy's a stud. He just won the first 80 kilo pro strongman league show this past year and absolutely obliterated everybody. So unlikely he's watching. I don't think we're that, not that he's got the time or energy to watch this video right now, but that guy, Quinn Ramasco, is the man. I think he got fourth or fifth at OSG last year. He was a USS Nationals champion in 2023 and just a super cool, nice guy. So shout out to him. I'm looking forward to watching it. May even be hosting some sort of watch party. So, stay tuned. If you're connected with me on socials, I'll be posting a little bit more about that. So kind of just running through some things that are going on here. They just announced a couple days ago that the events for OSG, the third event is going to be a axle deadlift 4 reps, and a little bit of controversy sort of came out about that. A lot of people have pointed out that they feel like the weights were light, and they are in comparison to some of the more regional events. So for example, the weights that they just posted for OSG coming up are lighter than what were just posted at the OSG European Championships. Now, I, as a show promoter, tend to kind of have a problem with people that really whine and complain about that, especially when the playing field is even. Now, personally, for me, I'm a very good deadlifter, so I want to see a heavy, hard deadlift. I hope that they end up changing things up to maybe put a Trump bar in to make that a little heavier. But man, let me tell you, all the time when I'm putting on shows, I get complaints about so many things. And the weight selection is one of them. I just want this to go to show a lot of people that listen, you're probably not going to like the weights that are selected at pretty much any level. The other thing you're not going to like is how much warm-up equipment and what the warm-up spacing is like at every level of competition that you're at. Okay. At OSG last year, 300, maybe 400 plus people. There was, 3 circus dumbbells in the back. There were only a handful of sandbags. You didn't get to touch the dinnies. You didn't get to touch any of the frame carry. There was 2 to 3 deadlift bars, right? And when you consider all the big variety in the weights being used, it was just kind of a crapshoot for getting it in there. I've also talked before about USS Nationals in Denver. There were 2 yokes backstage to warm up on for over 600 athletes. So, this is something you gain with competitive experience. It's just like a wisdom and maturity thing. Things are not really going to be to your liking if you're always grouchy and complaining. If you think it needs to be a certain way at a local show, you just kind of need to accept what it is, show up to be your best competitive self and roll with it. Because if you end up going all the way up, you're not going to have ideal conditions pretty much no matter where you are. Now, sometimes you do, and that's just a huge, huge benefit and a perk, and you should just count that as a blessing and feel really lucky that you get that, but you're probably not going to get it really anywhere that you go. So that's that. They also have announced that there's the car walk, which I'm super excited for. I know my weight class for the 80 kilos, it's a 7:30 car walk. So I'm really pumped about that. I did 6:50 at Nationals and won that event. So I hope to do a pretty good blazing time on that one coming up. There's also the Trump log. So we've got a 250 and a 280 for the 80 kilo class. Should be pretty heavy. I really like the Trump log style of things. And, if you're anybody that's been to one of my shows or interested in competing at the Fit Fest next year, I'm really highly considering doing something like that. So for those of you that kind of pay attention and follow along to a lot of my stuff, I do give hints about what's coming up for future shows. I've been thinking about a Trump log for some time, so we will see. Okay. Once again, if you're here and joining me, I see I got 5 people in right now. Really appreciate it. Anytime I get anybody as a viewer or this or that. Like, I just am really grateful for your time and being here with me. Once again, you are more than welcome to ask me any questions. Would love to talk, hang out, whatever you guys want to know about Strongman, anything I can offer, or just like perspectives, whatever. You can ask me something totally off the wall too. If you want to ask me about, if you think the moon landing was real or something like that, or like, if you know anything about the Sphinx on Mars, like we can talk about that. Doesn't matter. But let's keep going on Strongman in the meantime. So coming up in about 6.5 weeks is Static Monsters. Now I'm going to be co-running this show with Bear Iron Barbell in Claremont, Florida. So we're going to be doing the Central Florida edition. And again, if you're here, some hints and some exclusive news. We're going to actually be coming out with some cash prizes for some of the lifts. It's going to be varied in a couple different ways, but it's not just going to be going to like the biggest and heaviest lifts. We're going to give some opportunities for lighter athletes and different sets of people to win some cool cash prizes. Okay, so think about that. If you're looking at signing up, you got time to kind of start training and peaking now. And we will be giving out stuff for individual lifts. So if you want to come and only do a deadlift, or if you want to come and only do a log, like you've got some really cool opportunities to win some cash and have a fun show. And hopefully, if you know me and you've been to one of my shows, like I really do my absolute best to make these fun, fast, entertaining, and high quality. So we'd love to join you. So not only are we doing the standard Static Monsters log press and 18-inch axle deadlift, but we're also going to be doing a max squats to blocks. All right. So we'll have that, rated per height of the athlete. So we don't have this 100% verified yet because we're still testing this out. But, it's going to be something like if you're between 5 feet and 5'4", you're squatting to touch the blocks at this height. If you're between 5'4" and 5'8", you're touching to this height. If you're 5'8" to so-and-so to this height. So we're going to kind of scale it up bit by bit by bit, depending on how tall you are as the athlete. But we're still going to run it as a 1 rep max event. And since Static Monsters, it does require that we do the log first and requires the deadlift second. The squat is actually going to be the third and final event for that. So you can look that up on Iron Podium, Static Monsters, Central Florida. Since I will be there and participating, all these, well, just the two, the actual deadlift and the log press, are state record eligible. So that's what we have going on for that. Otherwise, what's going on in the strongman world? If you were here last week, we talked about the Beast of the Bay and the USS Masters Pro World, but we've got a lot of big shows coming up in Florida as well. This weekend, we have the Ocala Super Total Iron Legion Strength and Combat. That's the Super Total Strongman competition at Iron Legion in Ocala. It's a really good time. If you don't know Ted Drever and his team up there, those guys have a beautiful facility right there in downtown Ocala. They run some really fun shows. So would love to get you guys out there to check that out. Still time to sign up. And there's also Swamp Monsters being run by Chandler Caudill in Gainesville the following week on the 28th. So following that, we have on October 5th is going to be October 5th is Master of the Stones with Justin Lanehout in Seminole at the Valor HQ. After that, there is the Osceola's Battle in Osceola's Battle hosted by Seminole Strength with Jeremy Hornstra up in Tallahassee. We've got a card deadlift and a Viking press, some really cool events coming up in that one. I think they also have a truck pull in that. So if you're up in that North Florida region, give them a shout. Then following that up with Static Monsters. There's 3 in the state, but would love to see you at mine in Central Florida. And then even after that, coming up, we have the All-American Games with Luis Valero in St. Pete Beach, Florida. So hoping that Luis pulls off a pretty cool event there. He's got really lots of cool stuff. I think it's going to be a great time, and it's really looking forward to that. So past that, probably going to be seeing some things in December and January coming up. I'm hearing some rumblings of some charity Christmas events. That would be pretty sweet. So as soon as, those are getting out, I'm going to be talking about them, sharing out with them. But, in the meantime, just keep training hard, keep competing. Anybody that's out there watching, again, would love to have you pop in if you got any questions or anything for me. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes, but I'm planning on doing some of these lives every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Kind of talk about some news in Strongman, what's going on in the world. If I have any thoughts or opinions on things, that's that. But, we'll plug one thing that I'm doing. I'm putting together a community that's going to be full of all of my training programs, educational courses. Going to be starting to do some special guest features with pro athletes, strongman, and coaches. So if that's something that interests you, thoughts on Florida Strongest Man? Oh yeah, of course. So Florida Strongest Man just got announced, and Florida Strongest Man, always a super heavy show. Now, one thing I want to say about this is that some people, this is another complaint you see regularly. Some people say, oh, that show is too heavy. Well, in my opinion, there is space all over for very heavy shows and also lighter, quicker shows. Florida Strongest Man's got a lot of heavy stuff this year. They've got a max distance yoke carry with 50-foot lengths down and back. Got a Bartos wheelbarrow of pain. I think that also has if I remember correctly, a max deadlift with a Kratos bar. Got a Trump Circus dumbbell. I'm forgetting maybe that last event, but what's good about that show is it's always pretty quick and smooth. Alan does a good job at organizing these things to have multiple lanes that are running pretty quick. So one thing you can always expect from Florida Strongest Man is it's going to be expedited pretty quickly. You're not going to be wasting all day at those shows. If I had any honest critiques, is that there's not a lot of flash to it. I'm not somebody that wants a lot of flash and flare. It's just what do you prefer, style over substance, or like this or that, or some blend of it. Like I'm much more of the substance type of person, but there is zero ritz whatsoever to it, and a lot of people like that. I personally would like to see that show have like a little bit more fanfare, maybe some streams, like a little more excitement around it, because it is like a hard and heavy show. It always has a lot of very good athletes, some of the best in the States. So, that's just my personal style on it. But at the end of the day, us promoters, it's our prerogative to run a show however we want. And I'm not complaining about this. And I'm not even saying that any of that is a negative, because Alan does a very good job running that show. That's just something that I would like to see. I also remember last year we were under that sport court and natural stone to shoulder. That's the last one I forgot. It's got a natural stone to shoulder. We were under that sport court and it was like almost monsoon season with some of those rains, and pretty much everything was getting wet. It was kind of a mess. So I hope there's a contingency plan for that sort of thing this year. But, you can expect a well-run show with good equipment and good competition if you are somebody who's thinking about Florida Strongest Man. That's that. And this year it is in January and not December, which I think is probably a smart move, because I think it was 1 or 2 weeks after OSG last year. So that kind of eliminates a lot of heavier lifting athletes. So good question. Thank you, Brandon. If anybody else has anything there, I guess we also talk about shortly after that will be the Clearwater Classic with Justin Lanhout for the second year. Last year was a pretty good show. Just speaking my mind, speaking the truth on it. It ran really way too long, but hey, like you have to give credit to Justin for putting on a really good show with really fun events. And hopefully, we always want to like learn and get better with each individual show. Like I've never done an entire show perfectly, and I learn from my mistakes to make them better. So I just hope it's a quicker, more smoothly run show. I actually that day had tickets to the Royal Rumble. So we were going into event number 5, and I think it was like 6 p.m. and the Royal Rumble started at 7. I was like, man, I cannot stick around any longer. I've got to get out of here. But like, hey, my reasonable expectation for a strongman show is that we're leaving by 5:30. Especially like just period, whatever it is. That was I think a 65 person show. We just like to see that done quicker. And anything that I'm saying, again, this is not like I'm not dunking on people, just kind of offering my honest thoughts about like what I think could be done better. Again, hats off, because Justin ran a really great show. And one thing I'll also give Justin a lot of credit for is nobody has brought as many adaptive athletes to the sport, to competitive options in the state of Florida outside of Justin. It's not that he's the only one that's tried, but he has now provided several opportunities for those types of people. So, some people have personal differences with that guy. But at the end of the day, like you do have to like fully give credit where credit's due for the actions that he's provided. So that's that. Cool. Any other questions for me out there? Anybody want to chit chat, bring anything up? Give it about another minute here or two, but that's kind of my monologue for the night. We're gonna keep rolling with some of these Tuesday night lives every Tuesday 7 p.m. Hopefully we can get some good open discussions going on about what's happening in Florida and just strongmen in general. But if you got questions about like training, programs, competition strategies, anything like that, would just be cool to hear from you. Whoever you are out there watching. Looks like there's 3 of you left, whoever you are. Thank you so much for being here. So this weekend, again, Ocala, Iron Legion. We've got strongman competition out there. We've got Swamp Monsters the following weekend in Gainesville, and Master of Stones in Seminole after that. So, if you're somebody that wants to support and grow this sport of strongman, get out there. Even if you're not competing, participate, volunteer, be a spectator. Just do your part and help this thing out. So I'm going to give this 30 more seconds, kind of last chance if you've got any questions. If not, I'm going to dip out, enjoy the rest of my evening, and get a good night's sleep because I've got a pretty big deadlift day coming up tomorrow as my training has started to pick up pretty seriously here. But that's that. Last chance if you want to ask me anything. Thoughts, opinions, comments, questions, concerns, anything? Going once, going twice. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Come back next Tuesday. We're going to have some more fun things and strongman to talk about. As always, stay strong and have a championship day.